Hey Bears, my name is Matthew Connolly, career counselor here at BSU, and today we're going to be going over the virtual interview. As you're all very well aware by now, the rise of COVID-19 has completely changed the way that we approach our day-to-day lives, the interview process included. Because employers can no longer physically host candidates on site for an interview, they've turned to virtual interviews and screening their candidates. Now some of you may be asking yourselves, what is a virtual interview? I've never even gone on a regular interview. The only difference between a regular interview and a virtual interview is that a virtual interview takes place over a computer or over the phone. Although a virtual interview is not an actual in-person interview, they're just as important because they give you an opportunity to make a great first impression. They give the employer an opportunity to see whether or not you're the best candidate for the position. And at the end of the day, it gives you as the candidate an opportunity to learn more about the employer, to decide whether or not that this employer is in fact the best step for you professionally. Now look, I get it. Interviews are scary as is, and now we have to worry about how we're going to appear on a video or how we're going to sound over the phone. It's nerve-wracking, but I want you to know that you're not alone. Everyone experiences the pre-interview nervousness, whether they're just starting their professional career or they've been in their position for 20 plus years and they're looking for a new career. It's just a naturally occurring thing, so you're not alone. But the best way to combat that nervousness is to prepare. When push comes to shove, interviews, virtual or not, boil down to 3 steps: preparation, the actual interview, and the follow-up. The first step, and quite possibly the most important step in this process, is preparation. Now, what do I mean by preparation? Yes, I do mean going over commonly asked interview questions and answers, but there's so much more to preparation than that alone. Preparation starts with knowing yourself. You want to know why you're going for the position that you're going for. What about your story makes you a unique fit for the position? You want to know the hows and the whys. You want to show your employer your professional journey and how it shaped you to become the best candidate for the position you're applying for. From there, you have to do your research. If you don't do your research, you're going to go into this interview unprepared, you're not going to feel good, it's not going to be a good time. I've been there, I've done that, I promise you. Please do not try to go into it thinking that you can improvise your way through it, because it's not going to work. Preparation is the key to success because it's going to dictate how you feel, and in turn it's going to dictate how the employer is going to perceive you. Now, what do I mean by doing your research? First and foremost, you've got to research the company that you're applying for, and this encompasses more than just looking at the basic facts. You want to move past that. You want to do some research into company initiatives, some of their goals in the years to come, who their competitors are, what are the current trends in your industry. You want to arm yourself with as much knowledge as you can so you can incorporate that knowledge in your questions and answers when you're going throughout your interview. Additionally, you have to know your job description inside and out, because I promise you, employers are going to be asking questions in a way which will reveal how much research you did and how well you memorized your job description. You're going to want to practice commonly asked interview questions. On our website, under Career Services, under our workshop materials section, you can find a resource called the Effective Interviewing Guide. And on this guide, there is a variety of different questions that you can go through and practice. Practicing these interviewing questions and answers is so important because the more that you practice, the better off you're going to feel when you're sitting in front of that computer screen and you're picking up that phone ready to talk to the employer. At the end of the day, you want to take your background, your professional journey that you highlighted in your cover letter, and you want to take the information that you've researched on the company, as well as your notes from your job description, and you want to incorporate as much of that as you can into your interview questions and answers and provide those plugs when necessary, because it's going to show that you're the best candidate for the position. So you do your research, you know yourself, you know about the company, you've memorized your job description inside and out, and you've gotten a list of interview questions that you're about to go over. And you look at the first one and it says, "Tell me about yourself," and you freeze. How are you going to answer that? And how do you answer any interview question for that matter? Almost all interview questions, even if they don't sound like it at first glance, are behavioral based. What I mean by this is that when you're answering a question, you need to highlight a specific moment to back up your answer. And this moment needs to be from your professional journey at some point that relates to the position at hand and shows why you're the best candidate for the job. I know it may sound tricky at first glance, and it's nerve-wracking, but there is an easy way to approach interview questions. This formula for answering interview questions is what we'd like to call the STAR method. The STAR method is a way for you to slow down, break down the question, and answer it accordingly in a step-by-step manner. So, the STAR method is as follows. S, state the situation. So really you're just describing the situation you were in or the task that you needed to accomplish. T, task. So going further into this task, you're going to describe the challenges and the expectations. So what needed to be done and why. A, action. So you're going to elaborate on the specific actions that you took in order to complete this task. So what exactly did you do and how did you do it? And finally, R, results. So you're going to explain the results, including your accomplishments, recognition, the outcome of the project. So once you have the STAR technique memorized, no interview question is going to throw you off. In advance, you definitely want to prepare your interview questions, keeping this in mind. So when you write out those questions and answers, use the STAR technique in answering those. Completely improvising here, an example of the STAR technique, say if I was asked a question by an employer, tell us about a time you succeeded in a project. I would open up by saying, hey, that's a really good question. Give myself some time to get the gears going in my head. And then from there, I'm going to state the situation. So our overall sales numbers were a little lower than expected, and we had to make some ground to make up for the loss. T, what was the task at hand? So the problem that we were having is that one of our competitors developed a new service that was eating away from some of our sales. And in order to combat this, I took the following steps, and this is when you go into A. So you talk about the actions that you took. So because I connected with our clientele and assessed where their points of pain were in our sales process, I was able to gather a lot of great information that we were able to use so we can adjust our services. And as a result of this, our sales numbers went up the following year. So you see how this works? You use the STAR technique to slow down and spell out an entire story in detail from your own professional experience. So aside from accumulating all the knowledge about your industry, the job at hand, the organization, practicing your interview questions, preparation comes in other forms as well. So really that comes in the form of how you're treating your body leading up to that interview. You want to give your body adequate rest and energy that it needs so you can be sharp, feeling good going into your interview. So the night before your interview, you want to get a good night's rest. You want to do this prep work in advance, days in advance, so that you have some extra time to practice and that you're not cramming everything in last minute, because if you do that, you're going to be a little bit more stressed out. It's going to show. Get a good night's rest, wake up with plenty of time to spare so that you can set up your workstation, you can get a good breakfast, you can even work out if you want, if that makes you feel comfortable. But make sure you give yourself adequate time to prepare yourself. In the case of virtual interviews, you want to make sure your space is set up. So you want to find a nice, quiet place in your house that has nice natural light, but you also want to avoid any distractions. So you want to pick a background that's kind of plain, so that the focus is on you as the candidate, and you want to make sure that your laptop is charged. You want to basically just tie any loose ends to ensure that no emergencies happen during your interview. Step 2, the interview. So during the interview, there's a few things that you want to keep in mind. So first and foremost, you want to dress for the occasion. As they say, look good, feel good. You want to be dressing your very best. Although it's not an in-person interview, they're still going to be seeing you on the computer screen. So you want to make a great first impression, preferably wear a blazer. If you have a phone interview, obviously they won't be seeing you, but it's still wise to dress for the occasion, because subconsciously, you dressing your very best is going to put that positive vibe on display. So you're going to feel good, you're going to feel confident, and it's only going to help you in answering the interview questions. For virtual computer video interviews, although they're only seeing you from about, the chest up, wear pants. There are horror stories out there about candidates being on camera and then having to get up and they're not wearing any pants, they're just in their boxers. So don't do that. Dress fully, even wear the shoes. Whether you're on the phone or you're on video for an interview, be sure to smile. That non-verbal body language is so key. And the reason that you want to smile when you're on a phone interview, although they can't see you, they're going to feel that energy, they're going to hear your mood. So smiling, in addition to wearing your best outfit, is going to really just help you get in that right mindset. Lastly, when you're on a video interview, you need to make sure that when you're addressing the interviewers, that you're looking into the actual camera lens. If you're looking into the screen at yourself while you're talking, one, you might start overthinking how you're looking to the employer, which you don't want to do, so you're better off just looking into the camera. And two, it's going to look like that you're looking down, not quite at the employer. So you want to look into the camera to emulate eye contact that you would be giving if you were there in person. When everyone is introducing themselves, highly recommend jotting down their names in real time while they're telling you, so you can remember. Because for your follow-up, which we will get into a little bit later, you're going to want to include everyone in that email. A lot of step 2 in the actual interview at hand comes down to the questions that we just went over in step 1. But in addition to questions that an employer will ask you, you need to come prepared with questions to ask them as well, because like I mentioned before, you're screening them to see if they're a good fit for you professionally. And there's nothing worse than for an employer going into an interview and a candidate having no questions, because it shows to them that you're not really interested in the position at hand. So I encourage you to look into commonly asked interview questions from the candidate side and pick about 10 to 15 questions. Write them down. It's okay to have them out as notes on your table in your little workspace for your virtual interview, and you can refer to those when you're asking the questions. The reason why we suggest that you write down so many questions is that sometimes throughout the interview, some of those questions will be answered. So you want to have extra ones on reserve so that you can send them their way when that time comes. At the end of those questions, you want to ask about next steps. It's imperative that you ask about next steps so you have a timeline from when you finished your interview to when you hopefully get offered that job. And if you don't hear back from the employer in X amount of time that they state during the interview, then at least you know that you can follow up since they told you that timeline. Step 3, follow-up. Follow-up is so important. You need to follow up to show that you appreciate your employer's time. This follow-up can be done in a variety of ways. Option 1, you can do a handwritten letter that you mail to the employer. Obviously, it's going to get to them a little slower, and in this day and age with all the technology that we have, option 2, email is okay as well. You want to send this within 48 hours, the same day if possible, and in this thank you email, you want to treat it as almost a miniature cover letter, stating that you're appreciative of the time and that it was nice meeting them, and really going over any notes that you may have taken over the interview. So this is the importance of listening to the employer. So you want to take some of the answers and you want to incorporate that into your thank you letter to show that you were in fact listening. And then lastly, in that thank you letter, you're just going to say that you're looking forward to hearing back and that you'll follow up in the X amount of time that they provided for you, the timeline that they gave you. And then option 3, you can completely blow it off, but we don't recommend that whatsoever because you're not going to get a job that way. Say if you go into your interview and you absolutely crushed it and the employer views you as the #1 candidate, but you don't send a thank you letter and the next 2 runners up do, they may choose one of those candidates over you for that alone. Well, that's it from me. Thank you so much for your time today. Keep in mind, our YouTube channel is now up and running, so you'll be able to see this video and many more on our channel. Definitely take advantage of that. If you need any help at all, or if you want to schedule an appointment with a counselor, we are open Monday through Friday, and we will be open through the summer virtually. All you have to do is give our office a call and leave a voicemail stating the desired type of appointment, and we will get back to you. So, best of luck out there, Bears, and be safe. Thanks.